Hello, spiritual family. I'm Galliana Angel, also known as Angel Confetti, and today I want to speak to you about something super important. It is what the whole world is made up of, it is what drives our lives, it is what controls what happens and how things happen in our lives, and quite possibly one of the most important things you will ever learn in your lifetime. Because once you learn this, so many things build upon this that can help you improve your life for the better. Some of you are already going to be aware of this. A lot of you are not. Some of you are newly awakening to these things. And because I'm sharing this video on multiple social media platforms, I am going to assume that you know nothing about this. So please, if you are ready to accept this and it is part of your journey right now, it will resonate with you, it will make sense to you, it will feel good for you. If it does not feel good for you, all I ask is that you listen with an open heart. Let it sit with you for a couple days, kind of decide how it feels. And if it doesn't resonate with you, then please release it and move on. And if and when this applies to you, you will come back to it. So what are we talking about? That's so freaking important, right? And that is, what is the world made up of? What is every single thing in this world made up of? It's the one thing that every single item, thing, stuff, whatever you want to call it, has in common. Believe it or not, there's one thing that we have in common with every other thing in this universe. Exactly, whether it be a stick, whether it be something that we assume is dead or non-personable, a coffee mug, a drink, some kind of a gas, oxygen, human being, skin, and every part of us. The earth, the air, the sun, the moon is all created from energy. And energy is ever moving, ever changing, and ever vibrating at different frequencies, different levels, and speeds. So if something is a very low, dense energy, like we have on the third dimensional Earth, a lot of those things have such a low, vibrate at such a low frequency, a low density, that it actually becomes solid. And that is what a solid matter is made up of. Whether it be a coffee mug, a pencil, a car, that is a very low dense energy vibrating at a low energy frequency, which actually solidifies and is created into a solid matter. Now, something that vibrates at a very high frequency, very quickly, some might say so fast that you can't even see it, could form into the form of a gas or a liquid, depending on where it is vibrating on that frequency, what frequency it's vibrating at. Please excuse me, I am the farthest thing from a scientist, so my words are not going to be exact. Please do not quote me exact on this. I know what I'm talking about, I know it is true, but I'm not going to sound very doctoral, let's say that, okay? But let's think about this for a minute. We are all made up of energy, which means we have something in common with everything, no matter what form of energy we are. And our bodies actually have multiple levels of energy that form into multiple bodies. Did you know that you have more than one body? You do. You just don't call them bodies. Your emotions, okay, your physical body, you know about that, right? It's almost a solid. Sometimes some areas are softer than others, but you can see it, you can feel it. A physical body. We in this third dimensional Earth actually have what we call carbon-based bodies. bodies in other realms, other dimensions that vibrate at a higher vibration cannot, a carbon-based body like this is so low density, so vibrates so low that it cannot survive in the higher dimensions that vibrate higher and faster. So in the higher dimensions, the 5th, 6th, 7th dimension and up, those things either need a different form of a body, or they just are pure energy from the sense of so high vibration that you cannot even at times see it or smell it, touch it, but you can experience it in other ways. Some people know and understand that when we cross over from this dimension into what people believe of as heaven or other higher dimensions, we actually leave this carbon-based body behind and take on what we call a crystalline-based body, energy body, where we no longer need the hard physical body, and that crystalline-based body vibrates at such a high frequency that it acts as a transmitter for massive high energy. And we become these incredible transmitters of energy that can do amazing things that our physical hard bodies here in the 3rd dimension are not capable of. Like things that you would think of only from a supernatural movie, sci-fi movie, like move things telekinetically, communicate telepathically, and many, many more magical things that you can only dream of for some of us. So anyway, where I'm going with this is that since everything around us is energy, each item has its own vibration. The level that it vibrates on determines what it's capable of doing and how we are able to interact with it. Well, the Earth as a planet is just a big, huge ball of energy. All the other planets, the stars, galaxies out there are different forms of energy. And even our thoughts, even our own thoughts in our mind are creative of energy. And things that you can see and feel and experience start off as a thought, whether it be in our minds or God, Creator, Source's mind. We think of it first and have an idea, and then we create it into fruition in a different form of energy. But every time we think about it, we give it energy, and it becomes closer and closer to becoming a physical item, or it picks up a different vibration that brings it closer to becoming or coming into fruition and actually being created. And the more energy you give an item or thought, a thought or an idea, the faster it actually manifests into reality. Now, all this may sound really crazy, so just sit with some of that and let it soak in. And if you have to, come back and listen to this twice or more. And if needed, do some research. Don't take my word for it. Please go to the internet, to books. There's a lot of information out there about energy and how it is created and how it manifests into things. You can study quantum physics, explains a lot of this. The law of manifestation and attraction explain a lot of this. But I'm giving you this perspective today so that we can understand it from a human perspective, how we affect each other and the world as a whole. Okay? So we are energy and we vibrate at a certain frequency. The Earth is a ball of energy. It vibrates at a certain frequency. The sun and the moon as well. They have their own vibration and their own frequency. Their energy creates energy that affects all of us, as does our energy. Have you ever walked into a room and just felt somebody's energy right off the bat? You don't even have to have a conversation with them, and sometimes you can already tell if you're going to like them or not. Or you can already tell if they make you feel good or if they really kind of creep you out. That's because you're feeling their energy. You're feeling their vibes. When we talk about putting good vibes out there, that's exactly where this comes from. So you can feel and experience somebody's energy before you even have a conversation with them or interact in any way, which is proof that we affect each other just by being. We don't have to say anything. We don't have to do anything. Just existing, we affect one another. And with energy, there is no such thing as time and space in between us. So we can be on the other side of the world from somebody and call them on the phone, and without even seeing each other, we can feel each other's energy. We can tell what kind of a mood each other is in, and we can affect each other's day just from having a couple-minute conversation. We don't have to be face to face. We don't have to be in the same room, but we can feel each other's energy. Have you ever looked at a picture of someone and just gotten a weird feeling about them, even though you're not in the room with them? That's because your thoughts of them attract their vibration to you, and you can actually feel it and sense it. Humans are amazing, miraculous beings. God created the most incredible thing right here with us. We are little barometers of energy, and we can feel that energy around the world. Some of us are extra sensitive to it. How about when a major catastrophe happens, like 9/11 here in the United States, or wars going on halfway around the world from me personally here in the United States, like the London Bridge bombing, or the mudslides in South America, or the hurricanes in southern United States, or the fires in Australia. Obviously, we have emotions, so we feel bad when we hear these things, and we know that people and animals and creatures are suffering. But some of us actually felt other people's pain and suffering. Have you ever felt that? Did you actually feel so overwhelmed with emotion or feeling so much pain that you know it's not yours, but when you think about that particular thing happening, you actually feel like you feel their pain? Because you do. Because God created us with so much love and energy for one another that He gives us the feeling of empathy and clairsentience, where we can actually feel and experience other people's pain and emotion. Why? Because pain and emotions are also energy. And we, being barometers of energy, can feel those. Some more than others, and that's okay. That's because most of us are out of touch with this ability. We don't even realize that we have it. But the more you tune into it, the more you realize that it is real. We get so caught up in everyday lives. We have so much daily responsibility that we don't even stop to tune into these things and realize that we're experiencing it. We just realize we feel like blah all of a sudden, and we don't know why. But we didn't think about that just 15 minutes ago we heard about some horrible tragedy on the radio in the car. And it's still affecting us 15 minutes later, and we don't recognize that's what's happening. With this happening and how sensitive we are, we need to be aware that we affect one another, even complete strangers around the world. We truly are God's children. We really, really are a family, a earth family, a human family, and it's called the human collective. Humans as a whole are a spiritual family, even though we come from all different kinds of walks of life. We look different, we sound different, we experience things differently, but we are all connected through our love and vibration. And again, love is energy. It's the purest, most beautiful energy and the closest thing to God that you will ever experience. And it is it's probably, I venture to say, the highest vibrational energy you could ever experience. Therein explaining why it's proof that we are so close to God when we're experiencing this. And there's a lot more proof out there. I'm just throwing this out for simplicity's sake at the moment. But we actually affect the human collective just by being and existing, and just by doing things that we do every day. And we have no idea how we are affecting each other, including total strangers on the other side of the universe. And we need to understand this right now more than ever. With everything that's happening in the world today, it is critical that we understand this. Do you ever go through a point in your life where you didn't really pay attention to current events? A lot of us did this when we were younger, in our teens or early 20s. Teens today are much more in touch, I hate to say it, but good for them, kudos for them, with current events and international news. Did you ever just like hear there's a war going on in the Ukraine, or I'm just throwing this out there, I'm not using a specific war going on in the Ukraine. This could have been any time in my lifetime, or yours. It could have been during the dissolving of the Soviet Union or whatever. Let's just say this is an example, and you heard that, and you don't even realize, besides looking at a map, exactly where that is. So you're just like, oh, that's sad, and then you move on, and that's the biggest thought you have about it, and you don't even think about it again unless something comes up and mentions it, and your thought is brought back to it again. You just let it be a fleeting thought, but you don't really think into it because you don't know those people. You don't even realize where it's at. You've never been there. You think it will never affect me. And it's not because we're selfish, even though by nature we are. It's just that we don't stop to think about it. But we need to, because the people in the Ukraine are our brother and sister, just like the people 2 states away, 2 zip codes away, or whatever your area calls them. And what they do affects us just as much as those that live close by. And as a human collective, we affect one another, and we affect those around the world with our actions, with our thoughts, and what's going to sound crazy to you, with our vibration, our own personal vibration. So, as I mentioned in my last video, we are experiencing the greatest awakening that humanity has ever experienced. 2 separate yet entwined awakenings. The one is people are awakening to the crazy stuff that has been happening in this world, and how we have been enslaved and oppressed by the evil in the world, and we're finally waking up to that and finally wanting to do something about it once and for all. That's what I call personally the Great Awakening. And then there's this mass spiritual awakening where people are awakening spiritually to these things like energy and vibration, and that we are a spiritual being in a human body, and that we are immortal. And even though that our physical body may die, our soul goes on to live in a different form of a body for all of eternity. And as we learn that, we go on what we call our spiritual journey, that is also known as our spiritual ascension, where we seek out energy, we learn, and we grow until we become as knowledgeable as we can possibly get about spirit and the world. And that great ascension brings us closer and closer to God, and our level of consciousness about these things heightens to a point where we actually evolve into a different form of spirit. And I'm not going to go into all that, but I seriously recommend that if any of that interests you and you haven't learned about it yet, please do the research, because if you're interested in it, then it means you're ready, and it is your time to start learning about that. So there's 2 different types of awakening: the Great Awakening about the good and evil, and spiritual awakening, where people are spiritually evolving and ascending. and they are dependent upon one another. They are completely involved, and yet an individual can be doing one or the other and be totally oblivious to the other. So you could be learning all about the evil of the world and the end of times and how it is happening right now, not necessarily biblically or spiritually, but you're aware of it and you're fighting to get the truth out there for it, and have nothing to do with this other awakening, or vice versa. You could be totally spiritual and be meditating and working on raising your vibration and your energy and trying to learn and grow and evolve, and really not know that much about this or anything about it. Or you could be in the middle of both of them. But what you need to know and understand is that both of them are completely reliant upon our energy and the type of vibration we put out there. And we each are affecting one another with our vibration. Okay, the lower your vibration is, or let's say this, the emotions that you feel that cause pain and discomfort, the more they do that, the lower they are, the lower vibrational they are, the more negative that energy is. The emotions that give you joy and happiness and are of love and light, the more those are higher vibrational and more positive energy. I'll try and explain this so I don't lose you here. And with that said, we already talked about how you can be around somebody and feel their energy. So if Joe walks into the room and he's got a really bad attitude and he's super negative, he's putting out a very low vibrational energy, and it will affect everybody in the room. Some people more than others, but you could have been in a really great mood and you interact with his energy for 10 minutes and it can bring you down and affect your mood, therein lowering your vibration, if you let it. But if you're oblivious to it, you'll probably let that happen and not even realize it. But if Joe walks into the room and he's having a wonderful day and he's all feeling love and light today and feeling great about everything, his vibration is just zooming, and he walks in and he just makes you smile, and you weren't feeling that great. You weren't having a great day. Well, you can allow one of two things to happen. If you choose subconsciously, because you're not aware of this, to want to stay feeling sorry for yourself and stay in your bad mood, you could look at Joe and be like, oh my gosh, he's driving me bonkers. I hate people that are so positive. Or you can feel his vibration and feel his joy and be like, man, I am so glad he came because now I feel so much better. I totally forgot how bad my day was going. And you subconsciously chose to allow his vibration to raise yours. If you're not aware of these things, then it's subconscious. But the reason I'm sharing this with you is because I want you to be aware of these things so that you can make a conscious choice to react in a positive way and allow your energy to be affected in a positive way when you interact with people rather than a negative way. And if you work on that, not only are you going to be affected in a positive way, but you're going to affect everybody that you interact with, everybody that you encounter. Sometimes just by walking into a room, you're going to affect them in a positive way. Now, they have a choice how they react to you. But if we all work hard at recognizing how we react to other people's energy, then we can choose to make better choices for ourselves so that not only do we feel better and have a better outcome from interacting with that person, but the other people that we interact with will walk away feeling better and more positive from that interaction. Okay, so that's on a much smaller scale, right? And that's pretty simple to do. It takes a little time. It takes some real focus to be tuning in and paying attention to that. And just, I would say, start with little things like make a conscious effort to exercise this as a practice. Say, I'm going to, say you got to go to a family get together, or you're going to work, or you're going to the grocery. Pick a certain event and choose to go there and pay attention to the energy of people. This is a great exercise to get conscious about this and to get better at it, okay? Go to that event and interact with people and take a moment to stop and pay attention to how you feel being around each of the people that are there. You might just want to pick a couple people. That's okay. If it's a large party or get together, that's fine. Just pick a couple people and really tune into the way you feel being around them. Notice everything. Notice any physical feelings that you feel. Do you get goosebumps? Do you feel warm? Do you feel cold? Do you feel like they don't want to be around you? Do you feel like you don't want to be around them? Do you feel actual physical feelings? Do you feel their energy? Some people just zing and you can feel that. Some people just drag you down and you can feel that. So pay attention to that. Kind of tune into their energy. And then pay attention to how you choose. Make a conscious choice at that moment to tune in and ask yourself, how am I going to allow their energy to affect me? And then make that choice and observe it. And yes, you want to get used to practicing making the positive choice, the better choice, the choice that's going to leave you both feeling better. But for the sake of practicing, you may just want to, without hurting somebody, without really upsetting somebody and ruining their day, you might just want to experiment a little bit and kind of throw a little kink out there and say, I'm going to choose to say something that's going to maybe temporarily for a second throw this person off and be a little awkward. Don't do anything to hurt them or upset them. Just be a little awkward and see how that feels for both of you. And pay attention to how the vibe changes in the conversation or in the room. So don't always just pick the right choice, because you want to experience what it feels like both ways. And then you can immediately change it and lighten the air and put some good vibes out there and watch the change. But also, just start, you can do that as an actual experiment and do that often, or just when you get ready to go somewhere, even if it's to work each morning or afternoon or whatever, make the conscious choice when you're going in to pay attention to how you feel now. Always do a base check before you go. Tune in to how your energy feels, what your mood is like, how you feel all around you. Then go. Notice little things as you interact with people. If something happens and you get in an altercation with somebody, or something happens that you don't feel good about it, recognize that and ask yourself, is there anything I can do to change this before I leave so that I can make this better, so I can improve this situation so that we both leave feeling better? And if there is, go for it. And if there isn't, then that it is as it is. Go ahead and leave. And then next time, try and do better. But then when you leave, take a moment to sit in your car or when you get home and do a base check again. And tune into your own body, your energy, feel your emotions, and see, how do you feel now? How do you feel now compared to when you left this morning, before you went to that event or work? Then how do you feel now compared to while you were there? And then compare it all and try and figure out how and why that is. And the more you do this, the more you will become sensitive to your energy sensitive to other people's energy. It'll be wonderful for communication. It'll be wonderful for your relationships because you're going to start making better choices. You're going to start making the choice to keep a higher, more positive vibration. And it overall will just improve your life and the people around you. And you're also setting a really good example for others around you, whether they realize you're even doing it or not. So that's the basics. That's where you can start at home. But here's the biggest, you have to start there, okay? But here's the biggest reason that I'm making this video right now. I already mentioned that we affect people around the world. We all have so much energy out of the billions of people on this planet. We create so much energy that it creates the human collective energy. And whatever the majority of the people in the collective do, think, and feel can actually change the way the individual people feel. So what I mean by that is, if the majority of the human collective is feeling positive about life, feeling good about things, then the human psyche, the human consciousness, our level of consciousness, will rise and feel great. And the rest of us, the majority of us, will feel good. But if the majority of the collective feels pain and suffering and oppressed, enslaved to the systems of life, to the government, to the evil that is doing this to us, then the majority of humans are going to feel that way. Now, there are going to be certain people that almost seem immune to this because they're the ones that are aware of energy. Most of them, not all of them, but most of those people are the ones that are working on their own energy, working at doing things to raise their vibration, to keep their mood positive and light. They know what's up and they're doing something about it because they don't want to be like everybody else, stuck in the mass collective consciousness, the matrix, some people call it, of just being negative and low vibrational. But that's a good thing, because the more we work at it, the more of us that become conscious of this and work at raising our vibration and keeping our own energy positive and light, full of hope and faith and love, then we actually affect the entire collective. And that is what is happening right now with the Great Awakenings, both of them and all of them combined, which are all being driven by God, but ultimately us. So would it make sense, knowing this now, that the more people that start to awaken to these things, the more the collective becomes conscious and awake to these things? And we actually create a stronger, more awake human consciousness. What if I told you that's exactly what's happening right now? There are the first wave people that began awakening years ago and have been teaching us about these things for years, and we call them gurus, we call them wise old souls, we have all kinds of names for them, yogis. They've been trying to teach us for years. They were brought here to help begin that awakening and raise that consciousness. And those sweet, wonderful people, oh my gosh, have sacrificed so much and gone through so much of dealing with us low vibrational, negative people being so negative all the time. And they're one of the few people that are, working at this. But here's the great thing. The more you work at raising your consciousness and awakening to these things, the more you work at keeping your vibration up, the more you don't care anymore. I'm not going to say don't care. That's a poor choice of words. Let's say the more you're unaffected. Okay? So it's not that they don't care, because they do. They care about us tremendously. That's what their purpose is to help us. They love us. But they learn to not allow it to trigger them and upset them anymore. So we can all become the same way. And we are. True, the majority of people are still asleep, still not aware that they need to be or should be ascending, waking up to all these things. But more people right now in 2020 AD have awakened than ever before on the surface of this planet, and I venture to say in the world, galaxies, if you believe that there are other beings. I'm talking personally about the human collective, but there are a lot of people that believe, and I am one of them, that there are other beings like humans that are also living in lower vibrational planets that are going through similar things right now. And we are waking up finally. And those people that have woke up first are finally witnessing the great awakening of both awakenings, and they are rejoicing and so happy. But we are all affecting one another. And here's the thing. We live in the third dimension, a third dimensional world of duality. And what that means is there is an opposite side to almost everything in this dimension. Where there's good, there's bad. Where there's happy, there's sad. Where there's solid, there's liquid. There's just, maybe those are not great examples, all of them, but there's duality in everything. Yes, no. I mean, from very little ages in kindergarten, we start learning about opposites, right? Because we live in a dimensional world of duality. And in this dimension, there is good and there is evil. And the evil thrives on the lower negative energy. They literally feed upon it. They need it to survive. Where we are beings that God created as His children that are love and light. We are, by nature, with His light inside of us, beings of God that radiate love and light as a soul. Now, this physical body can bring it down. The physical gravity and lower vibrations of the dimension can bring it down. But at a soul level, we are love and light. And we need higher vibrations to survive mentally and emotionally. Maybe not physically, but we need it to experience life and be able to enjoy it. And the evil knows this. Whether you call that evil Satan, whether you call it the deep state, Illuminati, whether you call it a different name for your culture, whatever it is that you call it, the evil in this world needs lower negative energy, low vibration energy to survive. And they are trying to take over, and they are trying to win this world and take it from us. And the best way they can do that is by robbing us of our joy, our happiness, and all of our higher vibrational things that we use to survive and get through this life that keep us from getting depressed and wanting to check out early. They want to rob us of that. And they want to feed, they literally feed off of our negativity. So that is why they create events that will affect us in a negative way, that will hurt us, make us suffer, make us negative, make us give up, give in. But perhaps one of the most important ways is fear, to make us fear and panic. They will create events a lot of which aren't even real. They're illusions. They're lies. They're hoaxes, as some of us are talking about right now. And they create these illusions. And most fear is just that. It's an illusion. It's not real. It's a mindset. It's a perception. It's an energy, but created by that. And they will try and make us scared to death. And they are banking on that we're not going to know about this energy thing, and we're not going to know that we got to keep our positive vibration up. Because if we do, they know they're doomed. They know that we don't know about these things. So if they create a panic over something like a pandemic, or riots, or division between the masses, that's the best way they can win over us. If they can create a race war, a religion war, a financial, economic war, they will create fear and panic. If they take away our rights, if they smother us, they create fear and panic. Just like Hitler tried to do, and the dark forces behind him, they created an economy that took people's bread and butter, took their food and their medicines and everything they needed to survive, and caused a panic that made them feel like they needed a new solution to their government that would create jobs and economic thriving so that they could meet their needs. So socialism sounded pretty damn good at the time. Communism didn't sound so bad after all, but it was cloaked under the veil of socialism. And people were so afraid that some of them were willing to sell out everything that they believed prior to that event out of fear, in hopes that they would be saved and their family would be saved. And that's exactly what the evil is trying to do right now. Create as much fear and panic as possible. The more they can get people believing this stuff, and that's why they attack and affect the social media, they attack and affect the mainstream media, because how do they communicate with the masses? That's how they get the word out. That we're going to die from these killer hornets. We're going to die from these viruses. We're going to die. And I'm not debating whether any of this is real or not. What I'm stating is the fact that they use these opportunities to fearmonger us. And when they make us think that our economy is going to tank and we're going to lose jobs and we're not going to have money to provide for our families, people go into fear mode and they shut down and they forget everything they have to be grateful for. They forget all the other things that are out there that are possible, that it could save them. And they go to a place of negativity and they shut down and they start to make really poor choices, and they start to get angry and they start to get anxious and they start to argue with their loved ones, argue with their neighbor. They start to not tolerate other points of view. The people that are trying to tell them to stay positive, that something good's going to happen, they don't want to hear that. They won't tolerate that. And before you know it, they're all bickering, they're fighting, and now there's a movement, a what? Screw your movement. Right now I'm trying to provide for my family. And it just causes all this division, and guess what? That is energy that builds and builds and builds. As the collective, it becomes a massive energy. And guess what? The evil just eats that up. They feed on it. And they get bigger and bigger and bigger, till they get a real foothold on the whole human collective. And the human consciousness just starts to shrink, and we stay asleep. But God has had enough. Angels and beings of light that watch over us have said, enough. We're waking these people up. It is time. And people are awakening, and they're starting to recognize their own power. That we don't have to remain slaves to these people anymore. that we have power to do something, that we can stand up and make a change, that each one of us can make a difference. We may not know how, but we're damned if we're going to sit by and let our country be destroyed or our world be destroyed or children hurt and suffered or killed. So we start focusing on us and how we can make a difference. But a lot of us still don't realize that we have to start within on our own energy. Okay? And we need to start being more aware of our thoughts, which means getting rid of the fear, getting out of that fear, going to a place of gratitude. You can't be in fear if you're showing gratitude for all the little things in your life that have mounted to the good big things. You can't be in fear if you go to a place of prayer or meditation. You can't be in fear if you're showing love and compassion. And I promise you, if you're working physically on how and spiritually on raising your vibration and your energy, fear can't survive higher vibrations. So the more you raise your vibration, the fear will melt away and be no more, and they cannot feed off of you anymore. So we need to educate our families, educate our children about this. Teach everybody. Share this video with anybody and everybody, because the more of us that learn this, the more of us that work on our own individual energy, and not only are you working on your energy, but it affects your choices that you make. You'll make better choices, which will have better outcomes, better consequences, better relationships. It will affect everything in a more positive way. And most importantly, it'll affect your outlook and perception on everything, which will make life not seem quite so bad. You'll be able to see the good instead of the bad. And the more you do this, your consciousness will awaken. You will awaken more and more to the important things in life, and your vibration will begin to be easier to keep higher. And it will be a struggle. It's something you're going to have to work on every day. Your vibration will drop with different experiences, different things that happen around you. But you become conscious of it, and you work at bringing that vibration back up. And as long as you do that, guess what else is happening? For every one of us that does that, we are affecting the human collective. And the collective's consciousness is rising. Their vibrations stay higher and higher, which means, on top of it, they're waking up. We're waking up, because until we get our vibration high enough as a collective, people aren't going to be ready to wake up or hear you. So you can tell them everything that you've heard about the evil, and if you're awakening to the Great Awakening, you can tell them about the deep state and all this evil, and they're going to look at you like you're freaking crazy, because guess what? Their vibration isn't high enough to hear it, believe it. And they will awaken in their time, when it's supposed to be their time. But the human collective and the vibration of that collective affects that timeline and makes it more possible, a more favorable conditions and environment for them to awaken. Now, every soul has their own plan before they come into this life. And they have already decided when and how they're going to awaken. But most of them have chosen that when the collective gets high enough and the collective consciousness gets high enough, they're going to awaken then. Some will not yet. Some will wait and choose for the next wave, the next awakening go around, because there will be another. And there's a lot more to this story. What happens after we all awaken? Beautiful, amazing things. 1,000 years of beautiful peace, happiness, and harmony, and what many of us know as heaven. Heaven on earth in a different dimension. There's different ways to look at it. And I will share more about that in the future. But as of right now, for time's sake, some people, there will be another wave for those that missed this one. And some people are going to wait for that next wave. So don't panic and don't think that your loved one is going to be lost forever because they're not waking up right now. Please don't. That's just another panic and fear, another low vibration energy. Trust. That's why Q says trust the plan, because he doesn't just mean the plan for Q, but trust the universe, trust God. He talks about God. You have to believe he knows God's plan. They, let's say they, because we know it's more than one person directly behind it. So trust and believe that everybody will awaken when it's their time, but the more of us that awaken now, and the more of us that work at that, raising the human, our individual vibration and light, so that more vibration and light happens in the human collective, the more and the easier it is for everybody else to awaken. Which then means the more we vibrate at a higher energy level, the more light we exude and put off. And guess what can't survive in the light? That's right, the dark and the evil. Because we are so high vibrational. Light is the highest vibration with love. We are so high vibe that they can't stand us. They can't stand to be around us, and they're going to retreat from us. They will try and steal that for a while, till we get so high vibe and bright and shine such a light that they just can't even be around us anymore. And that's going to happen. We're going to run this dark right out of this world, as long as we work together. So I hope this gives you some insight. I hope this gives you some joy. I know how dark and bleak it seems right now. We are seeing the dark scattering and scrambling to hold on to this last bit of foothold they've had for so long. But remember, they don't have to fight so hard if we're not winning. If we're not putting up such a good fight, then they could sit back and relax like they have for the last 100, 200, 300 years. They didn't have to scramble and fight. We're winning, people. And the fact that so many people are awakening is proof of that we are winning. But we've got to work hard, not just as digital soldiers, digital patriots. That's one amazing way to work. But the most important way that we make a difference is starting right here with our hearts, with our energy and our vibe. And the more we raise our energy and our vibe, the more we exude love and light. And if we're all exuding that, they don't stand a chance. So now that you know about that, the first question some of you may be asking is, well, how else can I raise my vibration? I shared the exercise with you. That's a first place to start. That's a great place to start. But there are other ways to raise your vibration. I may do another video on that in the future. In the meantime, in the group, I'm going to share somebody else's video on that. And I will also type some different methods that you can use and some different resources. And I will post them with this video. But you can always research it on your own. All you have to do is search on the internet how to raise your vibration, how to raise your energy. But specifically say vibration so that the engine knows that you mean vibration versus just gain more energy because you're tired. Not that kind of energy per se. It's still the same energy, but in a different way. So search it. You will find amazing resources out there. But besides keeping your vibe up, make sure you're grounding your energy. And I'll share some resources on that as well. Those two things are going to protect your energy. And I want to tell you right now, if you keep your vibe up, you are protected. Energy, like energy, attracts light energy. Whatever you put out, it's duality again, yin and yang. Whatever you put out, you attract back. You don't attract the opposite. There's opposites. And sorry if I said that and it confuses you. Basically, I mean, whatever you put out, you get back. So if you put out wonderful, beautiful energy, you will get wonderful, beautiful energy back. And it will actually form a protection around you. that you will not need to fear anymore, because you will have built up such a high vibration that nothing negative can touch you. So you won't need to fear anymore, because the evil cannot survive around you. It doesn't feel good around you. It doesn't want to be around you anymore. But when you're down and negative and just feeling sorry for yourself and having a pity party, they love that. They're not going to leave you alone. And not that they won't try to get you until you get to that point where they can't anymore. They will. But why would they mess with you and waste their time with you that's up here shining so bright when they got all these masses out here to still go attack that are still feeling sorry for themselves? And it's not a conscious thing, they just don't know any better. But you do. We do. So please share this. Work on raising your vibration, work on grounding your energy, and trust and know that you are energetically protected and you are God protected, because you are a powerful light being child of God. You have God within you and you are amazing. So you have no reason to fear. And this fact that we're seeing so many people awaken to all of this is proof of that. Okay? So stay high vibe, stay positive, and watch for more videos in the future, and we are going to win this battle together. I love you all so much. Thank you for being on this journey with me, and I cannot wait till we are celebrating our greatest, biggest victory ever. All right, guys, take care. Love you.